Okay, welcome back. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and take the headphone jack piece that we created here and make it a part of the mesh. Alright? Just to make things a little bit easier for me to see here, what I'm going to do is go up to my shaded modes and I'm going to turn on the wireframe on shaded option. Just going to make it easier to see the wireframe of my object here. All the wireframes are shown in black. Okay, so the headphone jack is separate from the main body and we need to put it together. So how are we going to do that? Well, first we need to prepare an area on the mesh for the headphone jacks to connect to, because right now if I just take this and I kind of place it like this, that's no good. That's pretty much useless. That doesn't complete the task. So let me go over here. Let me go to the front view here and we can see where the headphone jack is. Basically we need an area here to connect. So how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to show you that now. Let me go into edge mode here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select some edges. Let me go ahead and select all of these edges. Let me go back to my camera view here and select that edge at the end right there. And all of these edges are selected now. And then what I'm going to do is go in my context menu and I'm going to subdivide this. And I'm going to subdivide this to subdivisions of 3. That way I have 2 sets of new edges that I've created. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and select, say, the bottom set of edges and go into my front view here. And I'm going to move this to just below the USB ports. You can see that there's some USB ports up here. Okay, there's about 3 of them, and then there's a firewire port down here at the end. I'm not going to worry about those at the moment. We'll come back to that later. So take the top set of edges and move that to just above the USB ports as well. Up here is fine. Let me move these down here a little bit more down. Okay. Alright. Now over here what we need to do is subdivide a few things. So I'm going to take these 2 edges that are right here, and what I'm going to do is make another subdivide the edges there, and just move this one manually to about right here, so it's touching the edge, the border here of the headphone jack. Then what I'm going to do is go over here and I'm going to create a subdivision there and move that to about right there. So basically I have this edge and this edge, and then the top one's in the bottom one, so I basically have this box or rectangle that surrounds my headphone jack. Okay, and I have the same thing on the right over here where there's the other headphone jack. You can see here there's also a rectangle right there as well. Okay, so let me show you what the purpose of that is. What I'm going to do is take these 2 polygons that are right there and delete them because we don't need them anymore. I also happen to have an extra edge here and an extra edge down here. I'm going to delete those as well. And I'm just selecting those things and hitting delete on the keyboard. It's that simple. Okay, so now I have a hole. And this hole is where our headphone jack is going to go connected. Now the headphone jack isn't positioned correctly right now because I eyeballed it. I simply moved it back, which means it's not going to be perfect. So to make sure it lines up perfectly with the hole, what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap this this object here to this object here. I'm basically going to snap to probably this vertex or this point that's right there in the corner of that hole. And the way I'm going to do that's real simple. I'm going to select the headphone jack, activate the move tool or the translation tool here. Then I'm going to hold down the Alt key on the keyboard, and when I hold it down, you'll notice that my manipulator changes. You get kind of like a little dot in the middle of the manipulator and the arrows go away. Well, this means that we're in pivot mode. Basically, we can adjust the pivot point of the headphone jacks. So what does that mean? That means that if I go ahead and I use the left mouse button and I click with the left mouse button and I drag while holding on the left mouse button, wherever I place my mouse, the pivot point is going to snap to vertices anywhere in that area. And it snaps not just to vertices, but it also snaps to edges, to the midpoints of edges, and also to the midpoints of polygons, which is extremely useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and snap this to any one of these corner vertices right here along the blue border edge, and just hover over one of those vertices to snap it there. Once you do that, you notice that the move tool moved to that position. Now if you select something else and come back to it, you'll notice that the pivot point gets reset back. That's the default behavior in Softimage. So let me go ahead and snap this right there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my snap menu. You notice that my snapping option right now that's selected is the little tic-tac-toe icon, which is the grid. What I want to do is I want to turn on the dot, which is the vertex or point snapping. Turn off the grid, okay, and just have point or vertex snapping turned on. Alright, Now hold down the control key and just click on this vertex that's up here in the top corner of that open hole that we created. Once you do that, you'll notice that the headphone jack right here becomes perfectly aligned with the hole. The only thing we need to do now is go back over here, the headphone jack here, and just roughly reposition them here with the image and make sure that it lines up. Once we do that, we should have a headphone jack that lines up with the hole perfectly, which I do. Now the next thing to do is, you're probably wondering, well, how in the world are you going to make this thing fit with that hole? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Let me show you a technique I use whenever doing this kind of stuff. I'm going to go to point mode. And I'm going to select all of these points. Just try to follow along with me here. Basically, all the points that are in the corner. The points that I'm not selecting are these points. The points that are directly on the left, right, top, and bottom. Okay? So I'll select the points that are on this blue edge, on the border here. Those right there. Then I'm going to go ahead and right click on the object to open up the context menu. What I want to do is select the option that says Weld Points to Target. Okay, that's the option that I want. I'm going to click on that. Softimage is going to go into a pick session, and it's going to ask me to pick a vertex or a point that I want to weld everything to. So I'm just going to select any point that's right here. Preferably going to select the point that's on the corner right there, and that's going to smash them all and merge them into one point in space. And you'll see in a moment why I want to do that. So I'm going to just repeat the process for every one of these quadrants or sections here. Top left, top right, bottom left, and bottom right. And if you need to, feel free to replay the video as many times as you need to until you understand the concept. Okay, once that's done, I'm going to take all of those new corner vertices that I've created. See that? I'm going to use the scale tool and make sure you've got COG turned on and you're in global mode. It just helps. I'm going to scale that up to make sort of a rectangle here, make it square. Okay, so now you can see that it's more of the shape of the hole, and now it can fit better. Now I do have some vertices I need to get rid of here. The left, right, top, and bottom vertices are completely useless to me now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge them with the corner vertices, and that's very easy to do. If I hit M for mic on the keyboard, I'm going to go into tweak mode. Okay, tweak mode is extremely useful. You notice that when you hover your mouse over any of these vertices, they'll be highlighted in green. Now down here we have ourselves 3 buttons. The main button that I want here is the button that's on the far right, which looks like a little cursor, a little sniper icon here, okay, that you would see in a first-person shooter. Click on that to check it on. What that's going to do, it's going to weld points. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hover over this vertex so it turns green. I'm going to left click on it, and I'm going to drag up to that corner vertex, and when I let go, it welds them into one. So do that for all the other vertices, and there you go. Now you should have basically what started off as this round headphone jack object tapers off into a square kind of cube type object. And now the rest is pretty easy. Go ahead and select the main body or the larger piece here of the computer, shift and click on the headphone jack so you can select both of them at the same time. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the merge command. Now the merge command can be found over here in the main toolbar, but I like to use the context menus because it's faster. So if I right click on this, you notice that there's no context menu. So to open up the context menu with both of these guys selected, hold down the Alt key on the keyboard and then right click, and that's going to open up a special context menu with a whole bunch of different options. Now the option that I'm concerned with here is the merge option. Down here you'll see a merge. Go ahead and click on that. The first thing you notice is that it looks like there's 2 objects on top of each other. You see this object highlighted in the white wireframe, then there's another object underneath in the black wireframe. Well, that's because this creates 2 objects. Basically, when you merge something in Softimage, unlike other 3D software which takes the both objects and makes it one, what this does is it makes a copy of both objects and makes it one. So the original 2 objects that I selected still exist in my scene. Plus, there's a third new object, which is the result of adding both of those previous objects together. What I want to do is take this tolerance here in the PPG down to 0, and then what I want to do is hit the delete button. When I hit the delete button, watching the viewport, what happens is the original objects get deleted from the scene, and I end up with one brand new object, which is what I want in this case. Alright, So now it's pretty easy. I'm going to hit M on the keyboard to open up the tweak tool again, and make sure that your vertex snapping option down here is turned on, and just go ahead and just connect this stuff together. Connect the headphone jack piece to the main body of the mesh, and those blue border edges should disappear, and basically you end up with one seamless object. See that? And it's a great technique that you can use over and over again. Now, we do have a second headphone jack. Basically, it's going to be a similar process, but we're going to move a lot faster. I'm going to take this polygon here, I'm going to delete it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and take the polygons from the headphone jacks, and that's easy to do. I'm just going to go ahead and raycast select those polygons in there. And then what I'm going to do is I can right click and go to grow selection. Now the shortcut is using shift and the equal sign on the keyboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that shortcut, shift and equal, and hit that over and over again until you select all of these polygons here that make up the headphone jack piece. Once you get that done, it's very simple. All you have to do is right click on this to open the context menu, and I'm going to go to, let me see, there's a few options I can use. I can use the duplicate polygons option, which is probably what I'm going to use. So I'm going to hit duplicate polygons. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over to the right. You can see that I've created a new set of polygons that's part of the mesh. And I'm just going to go to my front view here and roughly position it where it needs to go, which is about right here. Looks pretty good. And then the rest is pretty simple. I'm going to use the tweak tool again with the vertex snapping turned on, and I'm basically going to snap that and weld it. And once I do that, I've got myself two perfect headphone jacks that are exact duplicates of each other, seamlessly integrated into the model. Okay? Awesome. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video here. We saw how to merge the headphone jacks. That technique we're going to be reusing quite a few times to do details like this. So I'll see you in the next video.